Hello, everyone. Okay, everyone is joining. There's so many of us today here. I love it because today we are starting a little bit earlier. We are experimenting with the time. So I'm really glad all of us could join me today. All of you could join me today. So yeah, please let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me well. Today we are going to communicate through the chat, as always, really. But yeah, I'm really, really happy to see all of you guys here today, to see your messages in the chat, to see your names here. Please let me know where you're coming from. So probably many of you and me have met already. Maybe some of you are joining for the very first time. It's always really exciting to meet all of you guys. Where are you joining us from today? It's really, really nice to meet and nice to see you too, guys. Okay, yes, I see the variety of countries and cities, wide geography as always, always exciting. So yes, my name is Daria, if you're joining us for the very first time. And today we are talking about Etihad. So that's very exciting. Unlike on our past sessions and webinars where we usually talked about all Middle East airlines, today we are focusing on Etihad specifically because we feel like it's an exciting time to be joining Etihad because there's been a number of updates in the company. We are going to discuss that today, of course. It seems to be getting more convenient and faster to be joining Etihad now. So that, of course, is great news. So that's why we are focusing on Etihad, mainly on Etihad interview process. So yeah, please stay tuned. But first of all, as always, per our tradition, I'm going to tell you a bit about us. Yeah, I see you're coming from all over the world, guys. That is absolutely awesome. So, and who we are. We, of course, a chicken and fish community, whether you're with us for a long time now, whether you're a new joiner, we are happy to see you here today, of course. So we help you to prepare for all Middle East airlines, really. Today we're focusing on Etihad. I'm going to tell you how we help you to prepare for Etihad interview process and work in the company. We are also an always growing community, both in our staff, in our language and aviation experts, and in our clients, of course, our friends from all over the world. So that's always exciting. And how specifically we help you to prepare for Etihad interview process. So I've got a number of exciting offers for you today, guys. So the first one is, of course, our live sessions, lessons with your private personal coach, language and aviation expert. So this is for those of you who feel like you need help with English, which is it might feel challenging. You feel like you have a long way to go, but it's also important to recognize that, to know that. So we're offering you those private sessions to focus on the grammar, on the vocabulary, and of course the interview process. So combination of everything. This is the perfect choice for you. Let us know if you're interested. Text us after the session. And also, okay, in combination to that, so those of you who want to focus on your English skills, grow your English skills, but also don't really feel like doing it alone, but would like to focus on group discussions instead, which are present at Etihad and other airline companies. So for those of you, we have an exciting offer, which is group classes, our group courses. So the group course is usually 3 months, so it's always an intense course, and it only focuses on the necessary aspects of the interview in combination to generally improving your English skills. Right. So, and now we have an exciting offer of two last spots, two last places on our brand new group course, which is starting in a few days, I believe. So that is going to be an amazing opportunity for those of you who would like to prepare for Etihad interview in a group with other like-minded individuals. Those of you who have just joined, welcome, welcome. We are going to start talking about Etihad in a moment, but now we are talking about ways how to help you prepare. Right, so for those of you who feel like you don't really need any help with your English skills, you feel fluent, maybe you are a native speaker, that is awesome. Congratulations. So that is one worry less on your way of preparation, but maybe you feel like you need some help with the interview process. Of course, that's very likely. With the interview process, with the group discussions, with the final interview, with the English test, maybe anything basically, but not much help with the grammar, vocabulary. So for those of you, this offer will be perfect, I believe. So this is the consultation, 2-hour consultation, strategic session with one of our pro specialists. I personally really like leading those strategic sessions because they really help you guys to overview your previous attempts very often, because I believe many of you have some previous attempts which were not successful, unfortunately. So now on this session, we really like to discuss those and see what your previous experience has been like. That really helps us establish what kind of help you might need along the way. We also, of course, discuss your CV and other documents, your photos. I'm really always happy to see your beautiful faces and give you feedback, provide you feedback on your photos and on your preparation. So everything regarding the interview is discussed on our strategic session. So please text us if you want more details. And then the final offer is, I would say, a great complement or a great addition to all of the other previous offers, which are personal classes, group classes, and strategic session. So our I Will Fly course, it is not linked to any person or any schedule. It is all up to you. So you can decide when you would like to study or when you would like to practice. And it's packed with all the essentials regarding CV, questions, the interview process, the psychology of the interview as well, which is often overlooked, but also an important part of that. So that's a self-studying course, a video course. And I know maybe many of you as well, and many of our clients and friends have already tried it and praised it highly, and it really has helped them to get their dream job. So why not try it? Right, so these are all the ways we help you guys to prepare for Etihad. Welcome, those of you who are joining. Let me know in the chat how you're feeling, where you're joining us from. And I believe, let's start. Yeah. So the company profile is what I would like to start with today. So the general overview of Etihad. So first, please let me know in the chat what you know about the company. So I assume all of you, wait, how many of you we have so far? Wow, it says 61 participants, 62 including me. Amazing. So I assume all of you guys would like to join Etihad or are considering Etihad as your maybe second option, maybe your priority option. So let me know why you're choosing Etihad and why you personally feel attracted by the company, what makes the company stand out for you, what makes it unique, because of course we know other giants such as Emirates, of course, another great airlines such as Fly Dubai, a great option, I personally think. Qatar, of course, and also Air Arabia, a more maybe family-friendly option. So let me know why Etihad specifically in a few words, if you could. I would really like to know. But yeah, what I've got for you today is, first of all, when you are applying to the company, and that I believe is one of the updates. When you're applying for Etihad today, they are going to send you their guide or their company presentation in one beautiful and brief file. And that's basically your Etihad 101. This is what you do need to know about the company before coming to the interview. And I think that's really awesome. It helps you study the company and look into it. And the information I would like you to look out for is important milestones. So very often when we discuss with the candidates, like I ask them one of the interview questions, what do you know about the company? What do you know about Etihad? So some people feel the need to really research the company, like learn their history by heart. So good news is that you don't have to. Of course, they can feel overwhelming and maybe boring, and you don't feel any personal connection to it. So that is not necessary. Of course, there are some things that are not going to be asked about at the interview and that you're not going to relate to, and that's all right. What I want you to maybe look out for and try to remember is important milestones, like some really important moments in the company history when something changed or when something improved, because Etihad actually has a lot of firsts. So that's what I found out. Something I knew, of course, but they have some new information on their guide too. So something I really liked finding out is so of course their brief history and then some first, some milestones such as first Emirati female pilot started her work very recently in one of the past years at Etihad. So I think that's really awesome. Or their first eco-friendly flight, their green fuel flight. Also an important milestone. So it's great if you know the years for these steps and can share them and surprise the recruiter or show that, yes, you've looked into it. Or like the opening of Abu Dhabi airport. So that's a while back, but that's the start of everything. That's the start of aviation in the city. And for those of you who really are interested in aviation, I think that's a fun fact to know about. Right? And then there are values, of course. So values is something we talk a lot about when we are discussing different companies. We talk about values. You have to know values. Yeah, so values is something that usually stands out and something that lets you know about the company profile, really. So what is important for them? So of course, all companies are similar, and I know lots of people who are trying their chances at any company, but what makes every one of these companies so different and so specific? Very often these are values. What's important for the company in their work, in the industry, in treating their customers. So Etihad values are, as stated by the company in the file that you're going to get, is safe, ambitious, passionate, results driven. That's an interesting one, right? Driven by the results. United. So I think we all know, or many of you know, what Etihad means. If you don't know, look it up. What Etihad, the word, what it means. And you will get why this value is so important. United. And then authentic, which I really like, authentic. So all of you really have to be authentic for the interview to make sure that the recruiter really gets to know you and sees you as an amazing professional you are. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. And that is also important for Etihad, the company. So these are their values. And then people. So people's names, people, important people in the company, in the history of the company. That's also an important step or part of company profile that I really advise you to know, to familiarize yourself with, because it's likely that you're going to be asked about it at the interview. And then NPS system. So this one's big. If any of you have been reading about recent interviews at Etihad, or maybe some of you have tried recently to pass an interview at Etihad, you know how important NPS system is and how important it is to know what it is. Or maybe just some of you who've flown with Etihad recently or in the past, or in general in your life, have flown, have been on a plane, have flown with any other company, it's likely that you have an idea what NPS is. So basically, NPS is this feedback system that lets the company rate every one of their flights and see how well they are doing. And we are going to talk about NPS in detail today. And the information on NPS is also in the company file. Please really research the system. It's going to be so important during the interview, during the group discussion, during the final interview, during the company presentation. And it's also going to shape your work with Etihad in the future, hopefully. It's going to really affect your work at the company when you are chosen. So really, really get to know the NPS system. Let me know in the chat now if you know about it already. And then awards. So awards are also listed in the company profile, in the company file. And so they have a number of best cabin crew awards. And I think that's very motivating and inspiring. You're going to be a part of that. You're going to also be awarded this title, hopefully. So that's amazing. And then, of course, geography of flights. So there is very brief page and layout on Etihad geography of flights in their file as well. There are continents where they're flying to and parts of the world. But I really, again, suggest you to research the geography of flights, because I'm assuming many of you, lots of you, are looking to join aviation in general because of the ability to travel and explore the world. So geography of flights is of course a big deal. Make sure to research it. So this is the brief information on Etihad. Let me know if you'd like to add anything. If you know something else that's different and makes it unique, I'm going to read your messages. Now, what attracts you at Etihad? Those who are just joining, welcome. Welcome. We are just starting to talk about the company. Let me know in the chat where you're coming from and why you would like to join Etihad. Oh, I really like your long, composed answer, Anu. So Etihad represents excellence, innovation, world-class service. I like how many keywords they are. So, excellence, innovation, excellent service, world-class service. So all of these are keywords that you want to include to your CV and also to your answers. And I think it's great how you composed your answer, Anu, because yes, recruiters are really looking out for these. Top tier airline, awesome. Yeah, feeling safe. Yeah, as you can see, Alexei, safe is one of their values, of course. Any airline is focusing on safety. High quality, high salary, friendly company. I'd be interested to know what you mean by that. Yeah, I've definitely heard people describing Etihad as a friendly company in the past. So friendly atmosphere and environment inside the company. So of course that is important. All right, so moving on, right? So main advice here is before coming to the interview, really, really study the company file that they send you about the company. You really want to know these important things. And then let's focus on the company updates. Right, so the reason why we are focusing on Etihad specifically today is that, yes, there's been some updates, and it seems like some of the companies, well, not policies, but the way they handle interviews, these things seem to be changing, and actually, hopefully, of course, for the better. So those of you who've tried to apply to Etihad in the past, you know that their process has been quite long, right? The waiting process between interview stages where you're waiting for the response, it could reach up to 6 months, sometimes longer, which is, yeah, quite overwhelming and exhausting. Well, recently the company has updated their higher view step. So higher view step is the very first step of the interview that you're going to deal with, which is online interview, right? Without any recruiters, mainly just with AI or with the program where you have to answer a bunch of questions. That's an online step. It's become longer and more intense. So maybe that's a challenge. But the good news is that it seems to lead to a shorter waiting period, because it seems to have simplified the process for the recruiters. So maybe now it's easier for them to overview all the applicants and faster. So that has led to shorter waiting periods. So that is also, of course, great news, faster processing. And then another update which we've seen recently is new group discussions. So in the past, Etihad has been experimenting with various formats, various scenarios for group discussions. And recently it's this one, the NPS system that we just discussed. So this is what they usually ask you about during the interview, during the actual interview with the recruiters. No, guys, there is not only internet or online interview. No, higher view is only the first step where you're not dealing with any recruiters. So it's relatively easy. You have to record your answers. You have to answer a few questions. It's quite long, but it's relatively easy because you can do it on your own as fast as you like. But then the second step is the actual interview. You can also pass it online, which is great news, or offline. So this is with the recruiters and other candidates. So no, not only hire you, but also the second step we are going to talk about. Right, yes. So to the open day, you just come. Usually no application process beforehand is necessary. That is right. And many candidates choose that. For the assessment day, for the online assessment day, you have to apply first. Right, I'm going to read a few more messages. Right, interesting. Right, so adding a lot of keywords to your answers, I assume, but being rejected after the online step, the higher view step. Right, I'm really sorry to hear that. And unfortunately, it's almost impossible to really evaluate this situation where when I haven't seen your answers and don't really know your responses. There is a number of factors, and it's not always your English and not the number of keywords you include, but it's also much more, right? So they also see you at that stage. They judge your grooming, and unfortunately, yeah, it remains quite intense and strict. The high grooming standards that they have for any scars or moles, so that can always be the reason, but I'm not assuming it is in your case. It's just one of the factors that they are looking at. The way you speak, the way you present yourself, the way you answer. So all of it, of course, comes into the question and comes into the picture. So unfortunately, yeah, some people get rejected at the first stage as well. And it's not only about the keywords or the words you use in general. It's also about you, how you present yourself. We are going to talk about higher view today. So maybe it'll give you more insight and help. Right, virtual assessment day is after the hire view and you talk to the recruiters and other candidates, but online. And this is when they make a decision about hiring you, yes, but they give you the news later. All right, so this is some company updates. Short waiting period is the main one, which sounds great, and we are staying updated. Hopefully, it will remain the same. And then, yes, proceeding to interview process, which is going to be our main focus today, the interview process with Etihad, because it's quite long, lots of stages and lots of steps. So let's get into it. So let's start with the interview process, the very first step of it, which is hire view, which I already have touched upon a little bit. Next stage is virtual assessment. Depends what you mean. Next stage after what? It's the next stage after the higher view. That's right. You have an opportunity to choose or request a virtual assessment or offline assessment. So the next step after the higher view is the assessment. Whether it's virtual or offline, it's up to you. You can come to the offline face-to-face assessment if any of the locations suit you, because I've had candidates, clients, friends who have been sent an invitation to Europe, for example, but had no opportunity to come there due to their residence location. And they mailed the company and requested an online interview. And luckily, they were invited to an online virtual assessment. So that is an opportunity. But if you do have an opportunity to visit to attend an offline interview, that might be your preference. Right, so let's start with the higher view, with the very first step. So higher view, again, is this online interview where you're not meeting any of the recruiters or other candidates. You perform it on your own. Let me know in the chat if you have any experience with higher view. So I saw from one of you that you've been rejected, so it was quite challenging. What are some of you guys' experiences? So now, again, the higher view has been updated. In the past, it was much more brief. There were only a few questions that you're supposed to answer in a video. Now there are many more stages. So the first one is still video interview. So you see the question on the screen and you record your answer on video. You can re-record, you can change your answer, so that's an opportunity. And then there is a bunch of those questions. We are going to look at them in a moment. Then situational judgment is the next step. Situational judgment scenarios. It sounds quite long and scary. I'm going to show you in a moment what it means and what that is. But this checks your ability, your ability to evaluate the situation related to aviation and customer service. And then there's flight related problem solving, which also sounds very long and maybe challenging. It is in a way. So in this case, they are checking both your English skills and your basic understanding of the situation, but also a bit of your math, your math abilities, your ability to calculate fairly simple things. But this is where you have to be careful with the details, attentive to detail. Then there is a personality assessment. So this regards you as a candidate, you as a person, your experience, your previous work experience. There are a lot of questions about your experience and how you describe it. I personally quite like this stage. I think it's interesting and a little bit funny. You will see in a moment what I mean. And then there is background and interests section, which is again, it's about you as a person. Mostly it relates, of course, to your work experience and your professional path. Right, let's answer a few questions that you have so far. If you do re-record your answer, does that affect the selection process? No, they do not see that. So the beauty of the higher view stage is that they do not observe you there. They do not record your screen or anything. You are on your own. You can re-record actually as many times as you'd like. And that's a great part. What is the key point of higher view? Well, if you could specify a little bit what you mean, the key point. Well, the key point is to eliminate candidates who completely do not fit the requirements. And that presumably simplifies the life and the work of recruiters, because this is where the system helps them process all the answers. Of course, the recruiters also overview them, but this is where all extra, so to speak, candidates whose experience and whose personality and whose skills and whose sort of physical features maybe do not fit Etihad requirements. And then the rest are invited to the actual interview with human beings, with human recruiters, where they can evaluate, assess you more thoroughly. Okay, some of you haven't had any experience with Etihad or higher view. That's fine. Hopefully the information today is going to help you. I'm from ex-trainee cabin crew from Turkish airline. How should I mention this in my CV? Wait, do you mean you haven't actually worked as cabin crew? You were just in the training and, right, you didn't start your work? Then I would say you don't have to mention it because it wasn't the actual job. You just started training for it. You could mention it as maybe getting, if you did get any certificate or knowledge about aviation, you could mention it in the section of certificates. Actually, your CV is completely up to you what you mention and what you don't, because they normally do not check your background, they don't contact your previous employers. That's good news. Although recently I had the experience of one of my clients. She was told at the interview by the Etihad recruiter that they might check your previous employment with Emirates. So we don't actually know if he really meant it or he just meant to scare her a little bit, because she did have a specific and tricky situation at your previous employment with Emirates. There weren't any conflicts, but she quit very, very fast. So he did say that they might look into it, but she said it's all right, it's fine by me. So she was accepted in the end. Normally, they do not check your previous employment though, so you're free to mention what you are ready to mention. Yeah, you do need to bring your ID normally to the open day and only the photos that are required by the company. Right. So let's move on, I believe, to overview the parts of higher view more specifically. So again, the first one is video interview. So there are normally around 4 questions about you, about your previous experience. We are going to have a demo version of every step today. So let's overview those questions. So the video questions during the higher view, they're very, very similar to normal and standard final interview questions. So these are questions about you and your professional customer service experience. By the way, for those of you who do not know, you do need to have customer service experience to apply for Etihad and any other Middle East airline. So what I said about them not checking your previous employment, that's true. But you have to still add it to your CV and be able to describe it when answering the questions. So you can lie a little bit, yes. We do not suggest a lot of that though, because you have to know what you are talking about. And I really, really advise you to really get experience in customer service if you don't have any. But you don't have to have any experience in aviation. Right, so the first, and these are real questions from higher view. You're very likely to get the very same questions, right? So the first one is, you can see it here. So can you tell us about a time when you were excited to pursue a new opportunity or challenge? So what do you think, guys? It's quite long, but if you could, in a couple of words, how would you answer this question? Let us know in the chat. So it sounds also long and tricky, but make sure to read the question carefully so you fully understand it. So this question is about you learning, basically learning something new and starting something new as part of your job. So I would say a great example to go with is when you maybe got some new responsibility at your previous job. Maybe you proceeded to new client base, or you started training new colleagues or something like that, or your company implemented a new system of serving customers. It can be anything, but this is where there is a challenge and you learn something new and you try something new, and you have to show that you are excited and ready to take it on. And when the question starts like this, can you tell us about a time? It means you have to be 100% specific and talk about a specific situation, not just general idea like I always am excited to pursue challenges. No, you have to talk about a very specific situation. In my previous job as a waitress, as a hostess, I had this situation where after 6 months of working, my manager trusted me with a new responsibility. I had to do this and that, and so on. Okay, so very, very specific situation in one of your previous jobs. How many years of customer service experience should I have to apply? That is a good question. Normally, in Middle East Airlines and Etihad too, you are required to have at least 1 year of customer service experience. Not specifically in aviation. If you do have experience in aviation, of course, that's great and it counts. But normally, any customer service experience, and that is working at hotels, restaurants, shops, where you serve customers. Are there any nationality restrictions for cabin crew positions? Well, that is also a good question. This is what we sometimes hear rumors about, right? That some nationalities or some cultures are not accepted by the airline, or they don't really like some cultures. Guys, that's not true, and there is no direct evidence from any airline, from Etihad specifically as well, that they do not accept any airlines. If you fly with Etihad, if you open their website, if you see their promos, you see cabin crew from all over the world, from various cultures. It is true that sometimes the company needs to add representatives of a specific culture, specific nationality to their team. So they might be focusing on some cultures right now, like at the specific moment. And usually when they come to a specific country, or they recruit from a specific country, they might be looking for representatives of that culture. But that is all. They recruit all over the world, and now they are inviting representatives from all over the world to their online interviews. So really, do not worry about your nationality. Just think about how to present yourself confidently. Worry about your experience. You want to show that you are a great professional and a wonderful addition to the company. Do not worry about your nationality and your culture. Never. I think it's really, really beautiful how the company lets people from all over the world represent their brand. So just make sure that you learn English, that you feel fluent in English, and it is totally okay if you have an accent. That's actually quite beautiful. It also shows this cosmopolitan nature of the company. Just make sure that you are clearly understandable, but having an accent is okay. Being from a different culture is great. Do they accept fresher with volunteer experience? Well, volunteer experience is always a great addition to your CV, especially if it has to do with people, helping people, working with people. But you do have to have some standard work experience too. Yes, of course, hotels and restaurants, great customer service experience, very standard customer service experience, absolutely. Okay, moving on to another one of our questions from higher view, which is, please give an example. And this one's long, you can read it yourself too. So please give an example of a time you witnessed, you witnessed an individual not following the established rules, policies, procedures, or safety protocols. Which actions did you take and what were the results? This one's interesting, right? So basically, when your colleague didn't follow the rules, when your colleague didn't follow the company rules, again, it can be anything. Maybe you worked at a restaurant and your colleague put more dishes on a tray to serve a customer than necessary, or didn't put gloves when doing a specific procedure, didn't follow any other safety rules or service rules. How you react to people breaking rules, that's an important point. Again, lead with the specific situation and show that, of course, it's important for you and you prioritize the rules. But also there are situations when it's even necessary to break the rules when it regards safety or client safety, for example. And it's not always black and white, but you have to show that you, of course, prioritize the rules and it's important for you to follow them. And it's important for you to also make sure that your colleagues follow them. In some companies, Etihad, not so much, but also they want to make sure that if you see your colleague breaking the rules, you are ready to let your supervisor know, especially if it has to do with something extremely important, of course. If you're an ex-crew, do they have a preference or requirement for how long have you worked in the company? Well, no, not really. But of course, if it's too short of a period, like 1 month, I had a situation like this, there's going to be questions like, why did you quit so early? Were there any conflicts? Again, do not worry too much if you're able to answer these questions and say, okay, yes, I quit early because of my family situation. I had to be home, but now I handled it. Now I know how to handle it from the distance. So they basically just want to make sure that you're going to stay with them for a long time and not quit after 1 month. So that's understandable, of course. So just make sure to really, really, really ensure them that it's not going to happen. Okay, so that was the video questions. You see the question and you record your answer. Then moving on with situational judgment scenarios. So this is where you have a situation happening on board and you have to choose what you would say in that situation, what you would definitely say, which variant is most like your response, which is closest to your answer, and which one is the least like your response, what you wouldn't say in this situation. Okay, so our situation is, you notice that a guest is struggling to adjust the armrest on their seat. They cannot seem to figure out how to adjust the armrest. And we have 4 options. So please read them. Read them for yourself so you can fully understand them. So basically we have 4 options, how you would respond, what you would say, what you would say and what you wouldn't say, right? So you have to choose what you can say in this or that situation. Okay, so take a moment to read the variants and let me know in the chat. You can click the number 1, 2, 3, or 4, what you would say. Okay, Maria, thanks. Number 3 is what you would say, right? What you can say in this situation, and I agree, right? So number 3 is, so you are serving, right? You're in the middle of service and you see your passenger struggling, and then we say, you would pause and let the guest know that these seeds can sometimes be difficult to figure out, and you would ask them if they would like some help, right? So that is most helpful and proactive variant. So you would like to pause your service even if you're busy. You want to be proactive before your customer asks you. That's the example of excellent service. And then definitely not for, oh wait, definitely not for, you guys say. Let's read number 4. It's a bit uncomfortable for me to read at the moment. It's all right though. Okay. Since you're already busy with other duties, do not worry about this customer who is struggling. And right, so your guests will likely figure it out themselves, and another guest might help. Right, so definitely not 4. So number 3 is what you would say, you pick number 3, and number 4 is what you wouldn't say, you pick number 4. Okay, you have to pick 2 variants, the one that you will say and the one that you will not say. 2 variants for each question of this stage. Perfect job, guys. Amazing work. Let's see the next one more situation I've got for you. So this one is about a kid. Right. So while the aircraft is landing and the seatbelt sign is on, a guest allows their small child to take off their seatbelt and stand in the aisle to see out of the window. It was a long flight and the child was getting restless in their seat. Okay, so that might happen. Their parent led them to not fasten their seatbelt. What would you do? What would you say and what you wouldn't say? Okay, I see variant 2. Let's read number 2. Explain to the parent that the flight policy requires that air guests are seated with seatbelts until the plane lands. Okay, does everyone agree with number 2? Second option. Okay, see number 3 too. Let's read number 3. Find something that might distract the child. Give the child something to play with to deter them from standing up. What do you guys think about this option? Is it number 2 or number 3? So definitely 2, right? I agree with most of you guys. Yeah. Number 2 is polite way, and also it's more proactive. If you just distract a kid and you don't emphasize the rules, it's not good enough, right? You're just working with the kid directly there, not addressing their parents. Yes, for sure. Second is safety focused. I completely agree there. Safety comes first. And you have to make it clear that it's a rule. It's not just about keeping the kid entertained. That's a part of service, but safety comes first. So making it clear to the parent, of course, that is the rule they have to be following at the moment. Okay, and so what is one that you are not saying, that you're definitely not saying, which is the least like you would respond? All right, number 4, right? Let's see. Children can be temperamental and hard to control. For the sake of the parents, allow the child to stand, but keep a close watch. Yeah, definitely not. 4, that's a safety hazard. You do not want to do that. All right, guys, you are doing great. This stage is not the hardest. You just have to read the situation carefully. And please remember, so basically you are picking the best option and the worst option, the one that you would say and the one that you wouldn't say. I quite like this section too. I think it's interesting. So it shows your basic understanding of aviation. Even if you don't have the experience in aviation, you still, as a, a human being, as a professional in customer service, you can get what the right thing to say is. So these questions are not very tricky, but make sure to read them carefully. Good job. So the next stage is flight-related problem-solving task. So this one is also about the flight, but this one is more technical. Okay, so this is long. I'm going to let you have a look at that. So basically we have the flight protocol, the inventory. So a bunch of information about the flight. Right, so you see, we have the information on exit rows, in-flight experience, what you are doing and what you have to do during the flight to make sure that everyone's experience is great, seating, and baggage. So a bunch of technical and service-related information, inventory, right, what we have for meal service and for other stages of the flight. And then we have other flight details, such as seats in premium class, in business class, in economy class, and the seating, so the scheme of the flight. So all these materials are available to you during this stage, and then there are some questions you have to answer based on these materials. Resources, they are called. So you can always click on resources, see them, always look at them, look back at them, and then answer some questions. So that's the example. You have already served soft drinks to 83 of the passengers on your flight. How many more soft drinks will you still need to serve? Assuming that all remaining passengers would like a soft drink. Use the information and the resources to answer this question. So you see, it's purely mathematical, really. It's based on the numbers and it's based on the resources. So for this one, again, keep your eyes wide open and look out for all the information you have. It's not particularly tricky, especially when you are doing it at home and you have all the time. Just make sure to take your time and count. And it's great that we have the options. Okay, so we're not going to stop on it for a long time now because you need some time to study the resources. But that's the example of the question you will be able or will have to deal with during this stage, right? So once again, it's called, one sec. So this one's called flight-related problem solving, right? And it's more technical. Welcome everyone who just joined, right? So we are overviewing the interview process. We are currently on higher view and we are proceeding. Oh, guys, please do not. Yeah, I'm sorry. One sec. One moment. Okay. One moment. All right. So we are proceeding to a personality assessment. Right. So this is the one I told you about. I find quite interesting. That's for sure. So a personal assessment is so basically questions about you as a professional, about your personality related to service, related to work. So look at the questions. If contacted, how would your supervisor rate your customer service skills compared to others? That is quite interesting, right? Look at that. You have these options. The very best, among the best, above average, needing some development, then needing substantial development, and not applicable. Okay, so Alexi would say the very best. I think it's rather tricky, like how to answer. Do I say the very best for every question? Because the questions are very, very similar. And this is where you are asked to rate yourself, basically. Are you the very best? Are you better than others? Right. I really like your point, Ashvi. Why drag down others, right? Why basically putting down others and saying that you're the best. So among the best, right? Among the best. So you are not the only one, because when you say the very best, you're the only one who is great at the company. But I'm not saying it's right or not, right? Right? We are just brainstorming. So what do you guys think? Is it the very best? Is it among the best? What would you guys say? How would your supervisor from your previous job rate your performance, rate your work skills? Yeah, what do you think? Maybe it's the very best. Maybe it's among the best. Among the best. So you guys agree. Okay, one moment. They don't want you to dominate. Second is definitely safe option. I really like this point. Right. So, and that's the main trick for this section. And this is why I said I found it a little bit funny. So you can always just pick the very best option in every question. And that made also feel like a catch. Like, what's the catch? Can I just say I'm the very best and I will be chosen? Basically, yes. I've had candidates who did that. So, but we agreed on some level of honesty. So, as honest as possible without, of course, yeah, dragging down others too much and yourself too. So, of course, if you say, needing substantial development, needing a lot of work on your customer service skills, of course, that brings us to the question, why would the company want anything to do with you if you still need to work on your customer service skills? Because during the training, they mostly train you on aviation and they do need you to have adequate and great customer service skills. So you definitely don't want that option. So definitely look out for more positive options. And then another type of the similar question is, in the last 4 years, how many different jobs have you left voluntarily? What do you guys think of this question? What would you pick? Would you be honest? How many jobs would you pick? What's true for you? In the last 4 years, how many different jobs have you left voluntarily? Means have you quit 3 jobs? Okay, all right. What else, guys? What do you think? 4 or 5, more than 5, 0, 1, 2, or no jobs. That's your first job. 1, okay, 2. 2, all right. Right. So I would say, okay, I picked 2 because I graduated from uni a year ago and didn't have many experiences. All right, 0. Okay, right. So here it's important to stay true to your CV. That is a bit tricky because you might be tempted to lie a little bit, but then there's your CV that you're also sending and showing to the recruiter. And if this answer is different from your CV, then of course there are going to be questions. So again, be as honest as possible, but also remember too many jobs, like more than 5 in 4 years, that's a bit too much. Yeah. And you're going to be asked questions. Why? Have you changed so many jobs? If you can answer this question, that's great, but it's definitely tricky. If it's if you say it's my first job, don't say that because again, that's a requirement. You have to have customer service experience. It cannot be your first job. All right. So 0 is all right. You might be working in the same position in 4 years. That's great. 1 or 2, I would say, is okay. Maybe 3, but you have to have an explanation later, like why you quit all these jobs. I would say the first 4 are quite safe, but then 4 or 5, more than 5, can be a bit too much. Can be a bit of a red flag. All right, a couple more. So, in your most recent position, how frequently did you work with others on a team? That's also, yeah. Teamwork is one of the key requirements, of course. So, how often, how frequently do you work with others? So, frequently, sometimes, once in a while, rarely, never. So, of course, frequently, yeah, I agree. What else would you guys say? Always. Oh, we also have always. Sorry, I'm familiar with the questions, but now I just closed it for myself. Uh-huh. Yeah, I would say these 3 are safe for us to use. It's frequently, very frequently, or always. Again, it has to be connected to your actual experience that you put on your CV. But definitely a big amount of teamwork has to be involved in your previous jobs because that's the main requirement. So it's either frequently, very frequently, or always. Good job. And one more I have for you is, how much experience do you have in jobs in which interacting with customers has been your primary responsibility? Another so question asking you about the key requirement of the job, interacting with customers, customer service. 1, 2 years. to 5 years. Okay, so again, basically connected to your experience, how much of all the experience you have is connected to working with customers. So it's based on your experience, really. So here, no right or wrong option almost, but it has to be at least 1 year. So I would say starting from there, 1, 2 years and more. Okay, so if it's less than 1 year, it's not really, it's not really applicable. It has to be more than 1 year. But then you're free to go. I would definitely suggest not answering 6 months. It has to be at least 1 year. Teaching counted as service. Okay, that's a trick question. I have dealt with a bunch of teachers, and it is not directly counted as service, as a service job. Although there are some skills and responsibilities that are similar in teaching and service job, and it's a good addition to your CV if you can describe it as a connected experience. But I still suggest having some other customer service experience, not only teaching, adding it to your CV. Is working at a bank suitable for service? Usually, yes. If you work, depends what your job is, but if you work with customers, it is counted as service, but again, maybe not directly. So it's good if you have some addition like waitressing, working at a hotel, at a shop. But yeah, you can describe almost any job as customer service experience, but it's good to have some traditional customer service experience too. Okay, great job. That was our question where you have to rate your skills. So you can answer the very best or very frequently, but make sure to connect it to reality onto your CV. And then background and interests. So again, it's about you, but it's also connected to the job. This one's also interesting. It reminds me of those psychological tests, which I quite like, where we can check our temperament, right, or our personality type. It's very similar to that. So you have to select the statement which is closest to you or more like you. So I work best when I'm relaxed. I work best in high pressure situations. So you have to choose what's true for you. Most suitable, this one. Somewhat suitable. So not 100%, but maybe like 60%, 70%, this one. Or this one is somewhat true about you. This one is most true about you. What would you choose? Yeah, working in retail is perfect. Absolutely. Supervise at a shop. Yeah, you work with colleagues, you work with customers, presumably, right? Okay, guys, what would you say? You work best when you are relaxed, or you work best in high pressure situations? What's a good one? All right, think about it. Let me know. How about this one? I'm blunt and honest. I'm tactful and careful about what I say. Which one's true about you? What would you say? High pressure. I agree. Yes. So working in aviation, working in customer service in general, there's not going to be the time when you are relaxed. Not always. You have to be ready to work in high pressure situations. So working under pressure is one of the keywords, one of the skills you include to your CV. So of course. Of course, when you are relaxed, when we are relaxed, most of us can work well. But working under pressure is the requirement for this job. So somewhat or most is the right one you want to say here. I'm sorry, guys. I would really ask you not to draw. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So high pressure. And then, all right. Then we got so blunt and honest or tactful and careful. I would say somewhere in between. You have to be careful, you have to be tactful, but also you have to say directly. So I would say maybe somewhat right here. And then, right, when you are upset, how you react, how you get across your viewpoint. Okay, you see, this is about how you interact with others. This is your personality trait. So, when answering all of these questions, remember the requirements of the job. Remember what is important for the job, and that will give you an idea how to answer. Again, you can make your answers perfect, or you can make them close to reality, but also in consideration with the requirements of the job. So yeah, please remember here you have to choose just one. Okay, so you work best when you're relaxed or under pressure. So you pick just one, somewhat here or somewhat here, most here or most here. So just one. Okay, all right. Then, so that was our higher view. That was it for the higher view stage. Again, higher view stage is performed without the recruiter. This is where you see the questions and you see the tasks on your screen, and you are asked to perform them on your phone, on your device. Remember about the technical technical sort of requirements or equipment. Remember to read the tasks carefully. It's not the most challenging step, but you definitely have to be somewhat honest and also remember the requirements. Okay, let me look through the questions. I think the best tip with upset customers is understanding their perspective and not taking things personally. It really helps. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we discussed that a lot with my clients that, yeah, especially when you present your experience of dealing with angry customer, that's a frequent question. Dealing with upset customer, you have to show that yeah, you're not going to run away crying, although you might feel like it, but you have to handle the situation. Sorry. Okay. Oh man. All right. It's a bit challenging to look through the chat. Okay. Assessment day interview is not anymore the next level of higher view. It comes after the interview, after the higher view, right? So it's not part of higher view. It comes after it, after your higher view is assessed. So they send you the email saying if you were accepted to proceed further to the assessment, you might be not. Right? So you might be rejected after the higher view, or you might be invited to the assessment. So of course, that's the next step, but it's not the part of higher view. Then you mean we can choose the virtual assessment with higher view face-to-face at assessment day? No, you cannot choose. So higher view is always the first step. And then if you are accepted to proceed further, you are invited to the actual interview, online or offline. Okay, I hope you got it. Right. So, yes, first higher view and then the email if you can proceed or not. If you can proceed, it's great. You're ready to proceed to the assessment, whether online or offline. So yeah, mostly it's, again, if you can't attend offline, you can be invited online. So assessment day online and offline, they're quite similar. So the stages are rather similar. But there are some differences, of course, technical differences. So for online, of course, you have to have great lighting and all the technical equipment. So basically just your laptop, some pass through their phone, that's also allowed. But you have to be ready to stand up. You have to be ready to show yourself, your body, your scars and your moles, all of that. Right. So let's go through the assessment. So first of all, dress code. Dress code requirements are for all types of assessment, online and offline. And these are the pics from, again, the company's file, the company's guide. And this is what they send to you. So please look through it carefully. Again, like we said, Etihad is quite friendly, so they give you options. They give you options how you can dress. So, but basically, it's of course official attire, business attire. Please make sure to follow these guidelines. All right. So let's go through these stages. So as for assessment day stages, again, you passed the higher view, and next come assessment day, and again, different stages. So, is the first time an assessment day online? I'm not sure what you mean. Again, an assessment day can be online or offline. It's either one. If it's online, it's completely online, and then you are invited to join the company if you get a golden email. If it's offline, it's completely offline. And they had online interviews in the past too, and they have them now. So for assessment day, first comes company presentation plus quiz on the company. So again, study the company file. Then comes the introduction. So you're asked to introduce yourself, talk about yourself, share your name, your country, and one interesting fact about you. Then there is a group task. And then there's the final interview. And during the final interview, there are some questions, of course, about you, grooming, where they check your skin, and role play with the recruiter. So let's go over all of these. So first, there's company presentation, where the recruiter tells all of you, all the candidates about the company, and then they ask some questions. I told you to really, really look into the file they sent and be very knowledgeable about the company. So the variants of questions that you can be asked here are: who founded Etihad? Who is the current CEO of Etihad Airways? What is NPS? We discussed this, the system, NPS system. Why is punctuality important for crew? Again, all of these points and more are described in the company file. So make sure to look through it and make sure to listen carefully to the recruiter during the company presentation. So all of these questions, they are asked on a voluntary basis. So you're asked to raise your hand, both online and offline. You're asked to raise your hand and answer the question when you are ready. So of course, I suggest raising your hand and being active here and showing your knowledge about the company. Check if you know all these things about the company. If you don't, make sure to research and look into the company, information about it. And then the next stage is introduction. So this is where you are asked to introduce yourself in front of other candidates. Please listen carefully what exactly the recruiter asks you to share about yourself. So generally, it's very, very brief and short. This first introduction in front of other candidates. It is just your name, sometimes your age, where you come from, your country, and one interesting fact about you. So it's very short. And sometimes it's tricky. Like, what fact do I share? I suddenly forgot everything about myself. What do you guys think? What interesting fact could you share here? Please let me know in the chat. Any ideas? What might you talk about? Hobby? Could be a hobby, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, but make sure to make it somewhat interesting and something that can be memorable about you. Growth minded, that sounds interesting. Favorite country, okay. All right, I see a bunch of interesting facts. So I've heard again all kinds of stuff. Some of my clients, they shared an interesting fact about their name, like their parents named me after, so one of the clients said, my mom named me after this character in a Turkish series. And now I have this interesting name and I really like it. It can be something like that, right? Or yes, a fact about the interesting hobby. Like in the past, I practiced taekwondo or judo, right? I look very feminine, but I have this experience in martial arts, and I think it's an interesting fact about me. Again, so it can be anything. Yeah, it can absolutely be. I can touch my nose with my tongue. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it can be anything. It really, really matters how you do it, how you present yourself, how you speak about yourself, and how you're able, yes, to break the ice here. It's not so much about what you say, but of course, look out for some appropriate things to say. But yes, I've recently had a candidate who was really active and really friendly and just shared a bunch of facts, and everyone was so interested in just listening to them, talking about their experience living in Abu Dhabi and stuff like that. So it's very relaxed at this point where you talk to other candidates and the recruiter. Again, so Maria, they don't have any chance of checking your fact. They don't really have an opportunity to check whether you really practiced judo or how your mom named you. They don't have a chance to check it. So you can absolutely make it up, but I would say it's preferable if it is somewhat true, if you can relate to it, because that really affects how you talk and how you say about it, right? So if it's completely not true, if you don't relate to it, if it's not personal, I would say it affects how you present it, but you can absolutely make it up, yeah. All right. Okay. So that's introduction. It's relatively easy. And then we got a group task. So group task is present at Etihad. Yes, both online and offline. And in the past, they've had different variants of group tasks. Yes, absolutely. Make it up while being confident. Yes, if you feel like you don't have any interesting fact, if you feel like you have to add any details to your work experience, you can always do it. They do not check, but confidence is key. Okay, so different group tasks in the past, but now it is focused, it is based on NPS. Again, NPS. I have the brief information for you here, but all information on NPS is in the company guide. Again, make sure to study it. So NPS is basically the system that they use to check how good the flight was. So it's asking the passenger if they are going to recommend this company to their friends and colleagues based on this flight. And the passengers, based on the passengers' answers, passengers are grouped into different groups. Promoters. So these are the customers who gave this flight the highest rate and those who are going to recommend the company. Then passives. So they're satisfied, but they are unenthusiastic. If their points, if their rating is around 7 or 8, they're somewhat in the middle. And then there are detractors, those who are unhappy with the flight, those who don't really enjoy this flight and are not going to recommend the company. And the final percent, the final score is counted this way: promoters minus detractors. This is our final score. And this is where we can know how good this flight was. And then the company analyzes what went wrong, what was good, what did the cabin crew do that made this flight great or not so great. Okay, so this is the NPS system. And then during the group discussion, you are asked to discuss the system together. And I have some sample tasks for you. It's a very open-ended discussion. So they give you different questions and you just discuss the system. You discuss why is it good? Why is it helpful? How the company uses it and so on. For example, you can be asked to just explain what you know about the system and how it can help the company. Or you can be given a situation. So your crew has received the low score, the lowest score, bad score. So your flight was bad. So what can you do? What can you do to improve the service? Or what can be the reason for this score to be so low? Why were your customers unhappy? Right? So you're basically discussing this system. How is it helpful? How it affects cabin crew? How you can use it to improve the flight? How you can use it to improve the service? Okay, so it's everything NPS. So make sure to study the NPS system and know everything about it. Yeah, it's quite good for company's growth, of course, and it really affects your role in the company too. It's going to affect you a lot when you will be cabin crew. So make sure to know how it works, how it functions. You will get the company guide after you apply for the position, after they invite you to the interview. So right before the interview, they send you this guide. Okay? All right. So that is NPS system, information in the company guide. Make sure to study it. Make sure to know everything about it. It is not too tricky of a task. I quite like this task because it's practical, because it's related to your future job. But let me know. What do you think about the group discussion in general? How should you behave during a group discussion? Because, yeah, it's a tricky part. A bit. Some people struggle with it, especially during the online interview, maybe because there are some technical issues. You have to be ready to answer. You have to have good camera, good microphone, all that. So yeah, behaving during the group discussions. I personally recently had a candidate who had an issue with it because so they in their team, they established the order in which they're going to answer first, second, third. But some people started speaking earlier. So my student, my client ended up speaking, being the last, speaking as the last person. And she felt like it looked like she is not active enough because she let other people go past her. So I would say, yeah, being polite, but being confident and making sure that you follow the established rules and you don't let other people walk over you. But it's one of the challenges you can get during the online interview because of the technical stuff. During the group discussion, do you have to constantly keep discussing with the group? Is that something they notice? I mean, they are observing your experience with the group, but constantly discussing, like constantly speaking, no, because when you're in a group, you're supposed to take turns, but it's not something like, okay, you speak, you speak, you speak. It's very natural, right? So make sure to not talk too much, to not be the only one talking, but having this good balance, right? But then when you present your solution, you usually establish some order or who says what to have the successful presentation for the recruiter. But when you're discussing, just make sure to focus on your colleagues, on your teammates, be in this discussion, but not be the only one talking, finding this balance. Group discussion is basically your test drive for working in a team. So yeah, it's quite useful. Yeah, I really love the way you put it. It is. So that's why they are observing you and they want to see how you really deal with others and how you talk to people. So it's all about being able to listen, being able to communicate, right? And it's most of the time it's not even about what we say, it's not even about verbal communication. It's about non-verbal communication too, your body language. And maybe offline it's somewhat easier, but online too, you can use your body language, you can use your facial expressions to agree, to disagree, right? Yeah, keeping balance on letting others talk, keeping your own pace, putting yourself, listening. Yes, you're completely right, guys. You know what's up with the group discussion, but of course, it might be challenging on the spot. So I would say it's all about reacting and being in this discussion and reacting to this moment. Good job. So after the group discussion in online interview, you let go. You can go, and they tell you if you are chosen for the next step for the final interview. We are going to let you know. We're going to send you the email. So it's usually the same day, but in a couple of minutes or hours. So, and during the offline interview too, you are eliminated after every stage. But if you are successful, you proceed to the final interview. Final interview is basically some questions about your experience and you. So this is your final stage, but most responsible one. And those can be any questions. But recently, Etihad focuses on most standard questions, on most traditional questions. So it's tell me about yourself. Tell me why you've chosen Etihad. Describe a perfect cabin crew. Why you want to be cabin crew, right? So yeah, it's all about just understanding this job. After a few minutes or hours, yeah, it really it really depends because there are lots of people. So of course here you have to go in order. And when you're all together, when you are all in a group discussion, you're all together, but then you go personally, go in one of you, one of the recruiter. So actually it takes time. Yes, online interview. I'm talking about online interview here. It takes time. It can take up to 6 hours, and most of those hours are just waiting, really. So you have to be ready for that. But they also let you know in the email. In the offline interview, it's usually faster. What if I don't have any work experience? No, you have to have work experience. If you don't, again, you can create it. Maybe you can add it to your CV. They're not going to check. Generally, they don't check. But if you really don't have any experience, if it's going to be a very first job, I mean, honestly, um, I I think you should get some experience. You should just try working with people and seeing if it's for you because it's a very intense job as the first job. So I really kindly suggest you get some work experience. But if you feel like it's okay for you, you can add it. But you have to be ready to talk about your experience. You have to be ready to present it. Okay, so final interview. Yes, so very standard questions, very simple questions, but you have to research this job, you have to research the company, and you have to show what really stands up for you in this company and what makes you the perfect candidate. So at our classes, group classes, and strategic sessions, we discuss all of these questions. So feel free to text us if you need any help. I'm 36 with no cabin crew experience. Can I still join? Well, no cabin crew experience is necessary, and generally Etihad does hire people in their 30s, but I would say right at the beginning, like 31, 30, 31, you still have a chance. Yes, at 36, it might get more challenging, so it's still worth a try. But unfortunately, the chances get lower. Fly Dubai is a great option for those who are closer to 40s because this company really does accept people closer to their 40s. At Etihad, in the early 30s, you can still try. Good. So that's final interview 101. It completely depends on the recruiter. So recently, some candidates got a male recruiter, which was very intense. He was quite strict. And then some got a female recruiter who was more gentle and less intense. But of course, it doesn't depend on gender, just depends on the recruiter. And it's all right. It's a human factor. You have to be ready for anything. During the final interview, you will also encounter role play. So role play is the recruiter playing the role of a passenger and you are playing the role of the cabin crew. So recently, everyone, all candidates get this question. The passenger has found a piece of plastic in her meal and she's upset, she's furious, she's angry. You need to cope with the situation. Right, so the recruiter is playing the passenger and you are the cabin crew and you role play this exact situation. Like you show what you would say, right? You say, yeah, you show how you would handle it. Like saying, okay, ma'am, I'm sorry, let me see what I can do for you. Can I offer you another meal? And so on. And the recruiter says, no, I'm really upset. I'm really angry. I don't want another meal. I'm totally furious. I want to leave negative feedback. Okay, it can get quite intense. Again, with the male recruiter, it was so intense. He only was saying no, no to everything. It was really intense. But it's all about staying calm. And again, it's your test drive. It's showing how you would deal with a situation like this because it really does happen. Situations like this, they happen. So staying calm, assessing the situation, apologizing, offering a lot of alternatives, and again, adapting to situation. Again, during our classes, we work through all similar role plays. We help you. We role play it before the interview, so you will have your practice. But think about how you would handle it. All right, so that is it for the questions you're going to get during the final interview. And then there's also the grooming check. So the grooming check is where they check your body, your appearance, your skin during online and during offline interview, both. Online, you have to show your skin, your arms, your hands, your hair, your face close to the camera. And again, the male recruiter was so intense. He asked my client to like show her arms and she was sitting at her desk, right, during the interview. So sometimes when we are sitting like this, some marks are left on our skin just because you are leaning on the table on your desk. And he was asking about those marks, like, what is it? Are these scars or not? So quite intense and looking really closely at every small like imperfection. But that's okay, that's a part of it. Again, you have to be ready to answer any questions about your so-called imperfections, and you have to show that it's okay for you and you are not ashamed of them. So that's very personal, that's very individual. If you have some small scars, don't worry about them. You have to be ready to present them. But also after the interview, they ask you to send some photos of your scars. Any small skin imperfection, like a pimple or a mole or a scar, they have to be submitted as additional photos after the interview, usually, or sometimes before the interview. Again, look out for the emails. So be ready for that, right? Be ready to talk about your scars and imperfections. It's usually okay to have a small scar, but you still have to submit it. So they look at it. Usually there are no problems. If you submit it, and you can still be accepted. But you have to be honest, it's better than they find out about it later. Casual photos, yes, and photos in business attire too. Working as a working as a guide, yeah, it's definitely customer service experience. It is. It is. It's a great experience. I have first online interview yesterday they sent me. What can I do? Sorry for being too late to join. Wait, I'm not sure what you mean. You can hire view, so you can join it within 14 days if you mean hire view, the first step. We already talked about it though, but yes, you have to follow the instructions in your email. Should we then claim during the application process that we do have a scar? Yes. If it's in the visible area, you should. You're usually asked about it. Okay, guys, so that's basically it. Please think of any final questions you would like to ask me. But I think we have worked so hard today and we discussed all the interview process in Etihad. I remind you that we help you prepare for the whole process. Again, we offer you private sessions and group sessions and strategic sessions if you don't need any help with your English and only want to overview the process. And there's also our I Will Fly course, which includes all the information on the scars, on the grooming check, on psychology of the interview, on your CV, on your answers, on group discussions, everything. So please text us, let us know if you'd like any help. I really hope our today's session was useful for you and you got more insight into Etihad recruitment process. No, there is no need to wax your hair on your hands or arms if you're a male attendant. It's not a requirement, not really. No, they only ask about scars or other like skin imperfections like moles or pimples. Oh, wait. Okay. The procedure is similar to Emirates interview. Yes, it's similar, but there are some differences. But it's very, very similar in all Middle East airlines. I'm sure it's going to be useful to you too. Everything we discussed about the final interview, the group discussions, it's very, very similar, but the tasks can differ and do differ. But the psychology of the interview generally is, of course, similar. Is it okay to have a hairstyle with bangs? Yes, bangs are okay. You just have to have a bun and the appropriate hairstyle. You got to learn so much. I'm really helpful. Really, really glad to be helpful. Well, here you can see our contacts, our Instagram, Telegram, our website. This is where you can contact us for more information anytime. Is my scar okay? Well, it's very, very personal and individual. So I would say these are small scars, but make sure to submit them. You will be asked about them. You have to be ready to present them, but it's likely not going to cause any problems for you. Do not worry about it too much. Yeah, if you don't have any scars or tattoos, you will be fine and it's perfect. Absolutely. I mean, grooming check wise, they're still going to assess your personality and your experience, but it's great if you don't have any. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Could you pick? Oh, sorry. Oh my God, it's so fast. It's all right. Uh, the file about Etihad, the company sends it to you when you apply to the interview. 33 years old, but have young look like 20. Will this make any difference? At 33, it's still worth applying, yes. But not only appearance matters, your age also matters, unfortunately. Could you pick one candidate between intermediate English skill with perfect pronunciation versus higher level of English with bad pronunciation? It's interesting. I really like this question. Well, I would say pronunciation, of course, matters, but it really depends, like what you mean by bad pronunciation. If your pronunciation, a candidate's pronunciation is incoherent, like it's hard to understand this person, of course, that's going to cause problems. If it's just an accent, but you're very fluent and it's clear what you say at all times, you're going to be fine. You do not need to have perfect English. Like some people ask me, do I have to have like language, education, linguistic education? No, and it's fine if you make mistakes, but being fluent means you can discuss almost any topics, technical topics about aviation, everyday topics, and feel comfortable when speaking English, that you don't have to think too hard and too long before answering a basic question. Feeling comfortable and confident in English, basically that's your fluency, and you don't have to have perfect English. If I had to choose between the two, I personally, from my experience, would choose intermediate English skills with perfect pronunciation, because I have clients like these who do make some grammatical mistakes, and maybe, I have some mistakes, have not perfect grammar, but are very fluent, very confident, very comfortable in speaking English, have coherent, good pronunciation. They do get accepted, unlike those who maybe just who are incoherent. But honestly, I haven't met lots of candidates with really bad pronunciation where you can't understand anything. If you do have a high level, you likely have worked on your pronunciation too. But yeah, I guess that's my answer. Restriction about kids, not really, but you're likely to be asked about about your family situation, how your family reacts, and who's going to be with your child when you're working. The first time. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the first time, um, sorry, someone's calling my door. Okay, so the first time it's unlikely that you can bring your kid with you. So you have to take care of that. Excuse me just one moment. Okay, it's fine now. All right, so yes. That's it. So there are no restrictions, but you have to be ready to talk about your child and your family situation. Um, okay. All right. So, guys, I think these are most of the questions that I answered. I think it's our time. Waxy have your female attendant. I mean, that's generally usually like a general requirement for like women. There's some standards we have. I would say on your legs, not on your arms. It really depends. I would say going for a natural look that works for your everyday working life, the way you work in customer service, something that works for you. You have to be comfortable. And if you feel comfortable and confident, it's going to work for the recruiter. Okay, so I think that's it. If you do have any further questions, please feel free to text us. I really hope it was useful for you guys today. It was a pleasure meeting you all, a lot of us today. Amazing that we could meet so early too. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Good luck with your future Etihad assessment days. Good luck. I'd be really happy to see you on our strategic sessions too, maybe, and on our future webinars. Yes, I have the recording and we are probably going to share it. So, yeah, probably so. Okay, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for talking to me today and hope to see you soon. Take care.